Hey everybody, my name is Mike Johnson, and you're about to listen to a free 22-minute interview with former WWE and current TNA star Jeff Hardy, talking about his return to Impact Wrestling this coming Tuesday on Pop TV against Eric Young. If you're listening to this, consider it a free sampler of what we have to offer inside the elite section of PWInsider.com, where for a small subscription fee, you get a completely 100% ad-free version of PW Insider housed on another domain name with tons of audio updates similar to this, interviews every week, discussion shows, post-game shows for every major television broadcast, pay-per-view events, all sorts of material. You can check it out for 3 days free right now by going to pwinsiderelite.com, clicking on the subscription information, and you can check us out for 3 days free. You can check out everything we have to offer ad-free for 3 days. So check it out, see if you like it. Maybe it's for you, and if so, you can join us over at pwinsiderelite.com. Either way, I personally thank you, and everybody involved in the site really thanks you for checking out pwinsider.com, listening to this interview, and thinking about giving us a chance and trying out the elite section. Without each and every one of you, whether you subscribe to us or whether you're dealing with ads and reading the site on pwinsider.com, we would not be in business. So I want to take a chance again to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart personally, and from every single person who's involved in PW Insider. Without each and every one of you who are listening to this right now, who click on the ads, who deal with the ads, who read the articles, we wouldn't be in existence. We would not be in business. I thank you very much for that, and I invite you again, pwinsiderelite.com. You'll find a link right under this interview. Check us out, 3 days free. I'm Mike Johnson. Enjoy the interview. Thank you again. Hey everybody, it's Mike Johnson back in the audio section of PWInsider.com. It is Friday, March 11th, 2016, and in just a few days, this coming Tuesday, TNA Impact Wrestling returns to Pop TV live from Orlando, Florida, and a big attraction on that return to Pop for Impact Wrestling will be the return of Jeff Hardy to Impact Wrestling TV as he faces Eric Young, the man who took him out a few weeks ago. We are on the line with the charismatic enigma, former TNA and WWE champion Jeff Hardy. Sir, how the heck are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. You know, it's warming up. It's nice here in North Carolina, and I can't complain.
Now, I do have to ask. You got banged up in the dirt bike accident.
Yes.
Is it possible? Because you've always had that flair for being the daredevil. You've always had that flair for doing your own thing. Is it possible that now Jeff Hardy, Jeff Hardy, getting a little older, as we all are, unfortunately, might calm down a little bit when it comes to the craziness and the stunts? Or is it just
Oh, yeah.
embedded in your DNA?
Yeah, breaking my leg was a huge wake-up call for me. I mean, I've never had a serious injury, and now I'm dealing with it. I've got a torn PCL in my knee that I've been wrestling with, and it's just so unstable. But I got a really good brace. That's why I've been able to wrestle. But, the rod is going to come out of my tibia at the end of April because it's creating some pain like beneath my knee. So hopefully after the rod comes out, I'll feel a lot better pain-wise. But, the brace is working good. And when I broke my leg, it was the first time in my life that I couldn't get back up. And I was like, wow. And, I was 38 years. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been very lucky because I've rode all my life too, and that was the first major injury I've had, and I'm still dealing with it. But I think it's kind of a godsend. It helped me out. It modified my style a little bit, I guess I'm trying to say.
So does this mean you're going to bulldoze the volcano on your property? Is that gone?
It's been long gone. Yeah, it's been long gone, but I still got a track, and I still love motocross, and I want to get back on a dirt bike one of these days, but I mean, there's just no way I could risk putting my knee in any more harm. But yeah, I'm gonna always love motocross and I always want to ride, but I definitely got to take a step back.
The surgery to get the rod out of your leg, is that going to put you out of action for any extended period of time?
No, my doctor said 2 weeks I should be good to go after I get it took out, and he's just going to leave the PCL alone, and I'm going to work with that brace for as long as I can. Because once I get the PCL fixed, that's 6 to 9 months. That's almost a year. I'll be out of work, so hopefully I can run a pretty good while with that brace.
And I mean, it's never a good time to get hurt in wrestling or in life. But, getting hurt when you did, you had to have felt terrible personally because you couldn't help TNA during that transition from Spike to Destination America. The good news is you can help them during a time period now that they're on Pop, where obviously the audience of the show has dropped a little bit. Kurt Angle has left, and in many ways you are the biggest quote unquote name talent that they've got on the roster currently. So this is, your return this Tuesday on Impact. That gives you a chance to kind of step forward, be a locker room leader, and kind of hopefully wave the flag for TNA and bring some of those eyeballs back to the company. You've got to be very excited and thankful for that you're now finally in the position where you can kind of help again.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, when I was laying on the ground with that broke leg and I couldn't get up, I was the Omega world champion. Matt and I had just won the tag team championships, and we never got to defend them because of my accident. But I felt horrible. I mean, terrible for getting hurt outside the ring. But now I can make it up. Do some making up, and hopefully, Tuesday night's going to be a great show. And Eric Young's a crazy, insane individual, but so am I to a certain extent. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I need to make up for what I've done as far as getting hurt.
Now, obviously, whenever we talk about wrestling, especially to the audience we're speaking to, there's always a lot of criticism, sometimes scorn, on the creative output of a company. TNA is no exception to that. You've been around wrestling literally since you were a teenager. You've worked in every different position in WWE. You came into TNA as a headliner. When you look at the current TNA product and the current storylines and the current work ethic that this crew has, what do you think are the strengths that maybe some people out there are kind of overlooking and not paying attention to when it comes to the current product?
I don't know why it's people don't love TNA more than they do, because I mean, even like what Matt's doing now, I think is great. I think all the storylines are great. Every show I've watched has been great. Even I mean, it's a good wrestling show, and I always try to put myself back in the position of being a wrestling fan. I am a wrestling fan, but as a kid, when I would watch WCW, NWA, and then WWF, and all that, and I watched wrestling because I love it. And I just don't know what it is, but I mean, we have such a strong talent roster and have such good shows, and I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't, succeed. I mean, eventually, and be huge. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the main problem is, because the problem definitely isn't the talent.
The Matt's current direction and the new side of him that we're kind of getting to see has been one of my favorite things the last month or so in the TNA storylines. I feel like for the first time since he's left WWE, we've seen Matt not playing off of elements of who he was, but kind of doing a brand new take on the Matt Hardy character, a brand new sort of style to his personality. Now, you obviously know Matt better than anybody, so I was curious what your thoughts are on the current direction that they've taken him in and how it's kind of freshened him up as a personality.
Oh, I love it. I mean, he's a great heel. I think he always has been a better heel than face. But yeah, I love it. It's pretty much an extension of what and who he really is. Just exaggerated a little bit, the big money Matt thing. But yeah, I love it. I'm looking forward to hopefully having another Jeff Hardy Matt Hardy match, because we teased that before I got power driven through a table. So hopefully we'll get back to the Hardy feud and maybe have a few good matches.
The one of the things I think that's really helped TNA in the last 6 months is Matt has kind of added his voice a bit to the backstage scene. Shane Helms coming on, working behind the scenes, has also, I think, helped. There's obviously two very good minds for the business. Is that anything you'd ever want to get a little bit more involved in? You've kind of always been the type to kind of stay away from politics and the backstage scene and do what your job is and go out there and perform for the people. But as you're getting older, obviously, you have to think about life beyond performing. Is that something, would you want to get more involved in the creative aspect of the company or produce more and maybe help others put things together? Is that something maybe you see as a prospect for yourself down the line? Or do you think, I do my thing, I know what's best for me, and I'd rather leave that for others?
Possibly. I mean, right now I don't feel like I would want to be involved in that, but I mean, possibly down the road I may, because I mean, I'll always love pro wrestling and being a part of it, even after I can't, wrestle anymore. So I'm not saying no, but I'm just not that I don't think I'd be that good at it. Shane, for example, he's been such a great help as an agent. He's got such a great mind for the wrestling business. Matt as well, but that's more their line. I'm more of the just like you said, just do my own thing, and but I'm not cutting it out altogether. But maybe I would. But right now, I don't feel like I would be interested.
The return to TV this Tuesday on Impact Wrestling, obviously you're going to be in the ring with Eric Young. If there's anybody who's been the master of recreating himself over and over and is something of a chameleon in pro wrestling, it's Eric Young. If you look at him over the course of his career, the EY, the paranoid guy versus EY from Team Canada versus EY teaming with ODB versus the crazy fishing guy to the Eric Young we see now, he's always been able to pull out all these different layers and all these different styles of personality and all these different ways of presenting himself. What do you think is the secret to his success? And, obviously you're going to work with him this week on Tuesday. Give us an insight into, for yourself, what that match is going to mean for you as you return into the company's storylines.
He's just entertaining overall. I mean, he can do whatever he wants to do, like on all the different shows he has, and he's just overall entertaining, and he can do. So he's so talented. I mean, he can be crazy, he can be nice, he can be, insane. I mean, it's just he's got it all, and I'm looking forward to working with the insane part of him Tuesday night because I think he's better than he's ever been right now, and by far his best character is now, and I'm looking forward to seeking revenge on him.
So you've been in TNA for a number of years now. We've gotten to see different aspects of you. You've played the villain. You've played the hero. We got to see Willow appear. Perhaps we'll see him again at some point. I don't know. I'm sure there's umbrellas somewhere that people could use.
Right.
You've always been a guy who I think creatively you try to push the boundaries for yourself. You've done your music. You've tried to do different things and create different elements of your look, of your character. Do you ever get satisfied with what you do? Because I feel like the guys who always try to recreate themselves, one, they're never satisfied, which usually means I think that's a byproduct of their work ethic for the business as much as it's their creativity. Because to me, the people who are the best performers are the ones who never feel like they've had a great match. It's always like that's the unobtainable goal. Like this was okay, but when somebody says it was a great match, that's usually the response that I'll hear when I compliment somebody who really loves what they do. Have you ever gotten to the point where you're satisfied with who you are, either as a personality in the business, the way you present yourself, or with your matches? Because I feel like you've never, ever tried to stop topping yourself, and you've always tried to recreate yourself. And to me, I think there's something to be said about that, especially when, as you get older, most wrestlers are very happy to kind of fall onto the reputation and know that, hey, I don't have to work as hard because based on what I did 5-6 years ago, especially if you had that WWE run, I'll get as big of a reaction. I don't need to have that work ethic anymore. But you've always kind of had that in the ring for the most part. So I'm curious your thoughts.
I'm my own worst critic. I like for example, I'll have a match and I'll think it was horrible or not as good as I wanted it to be. But then I'll watch it back and go, oh, wow, that was pretty good. But like in the moment, I don't feel like it, it's good. But then when I watch it back, I'm like, oh, God, that looks really good. But yeah, I'm all about, recreating yourself over and over again, whether it's cutting your hair or changing your style of wrestling or whatever. You kind of have to stay relative. And, but yeah, I'm my own worst critic. And my problem is just like riding motorcycles and building these jumps I've built and the rush of making it. You see it in your mind, and then when you go for it and you make it, it's fun. But fear is part of that fun. Same thing with in the ring. When I come up with these crazy ideas to jump off of, I don't know, a 32-foot high structure or whatever. I mean, the fear is part of the fun. Once you get through that, and you're all right. And that's my biggest problem is I'm kind of addicted to those, like being speared from 20 feet in the air or whatever, like just those moments that you create in professional wrestling that will last forever. And I think I can still make many more, but definitely breaking my leg has modified me a little bit, especially now with my knee. But yeah, that's my problem. I just, I can't help. I want to do something crazy all the time and pull it off and then watch it back and go, man, that is possible. And I did do that. So that's how I feel when it comes to that.
You actually touched upon what my follow-up question was going to be, is with the knee and the PCL tear, how much of who Jeff Hardy is do you have to, as a performer, do you have to now kind of balance out and protect? Because obviously you can't be doing spears onto Devon, from 25 feet up if you've got to worry about that knee. But
Right.
how do you intend to kind of balance that going forward? Because Jeff Hardy brand, that's your Twitter name. You have a brand, and part of that brand is being the Daredevil. So how do you kind of balance that out now?
It's been interesting. I've had probably 6 or 7 matches, and I do a little more each time. And for example, the last show I did a swanton. It was it just ended up happening at the end of the show, and I said, man, I'm going to have to find out sometime. I planned to just wait and try it at the live show, for the first time, but I went in and tried it, and I did it. I was all right. I mean, I crushed Matt in the process, but I had to make sure I protected my knee. But yes, just every match I have, I do a little bit more, so I'm kind of just pushing the limit as I go, because if you could see how my knee moves, it would freak you out. It's amazing I can even do what I do with that. But that brace, I feel super safe, and just every match I have, I do a little more. So I'm kind of just pushing the boundaries on where I can go with this, and hopefully I
Awesome.
can get through it without I mean, it's not like I'm going to tear my PCL or anything, but I really got to protect my knee. Like, for example, I can't be landing on my feet from off the top rope or things like that. I got to avoid, or landing on my knee, things like that.
That's what I was going to ask. Is the PCL eventually going to have to require surgery? Like, what's the long-term diagnosis on that?
It's the same as an ACL or whatever. It's 6 to 9 months. Like, once he goes in there and fixes it. But yeah, a lot of people can get by with a torn PCL, but mine, I don't know. It's crazy when I move it. It looks so ridiculous, and if you would see it, you'd go, "Oh my God, how are you even walking?" But luckily, that brace has been working good, and I just hope I can ride that for as long as possible, at least a year.
Obviously, we're talking about Impact Wrestling coming up this Tuesday on Spike. However, you're going to be in Dallas Wrestlemania weekend at Wrestlecon. As a guy who grew up a huge wrestling fan, and especially in the Carolinas, where the NWA and WCW, those were the brands in the Carolinas. When you were a child, when I was a kid, how important is it to you to kind of be involved, and how cool is it to you to kind of be part of the alternative to WrestleMania, not just with TNA, but with an event like Wrestlecon, where you can provide something different and a different flavor beyond what WWE is presenting?
It's cool. I normally, before last year, it was the first year I've done it, and it's before that, I kind of didn't want to be anywhere near WrestleMania unless I was a part of WrestleMania, but I kind of just got over that and said, oh, shoot, let's go do this. And it was Sabu and RVD, and so Matt and I have a good match with them, a wild match, and but I enjoyed it. I mean, it's cool to be near that big spectacle, and the wrestling fans that are going to WrestleMania still get to see Jeff Hardy, even the ones that miss Jeff Hardy being in WWE. At least some will get to see me perform there live. So I'm all about it now. But before I wanted to stay as far away as I could. But after last year, it was a good experience, and that's why I'm returning again this year.
The match against Eric Young, obviously, that looks to be the continuation of the story that began when Eric put you through the table. When you look out on the TNA landscape, wrestling fans always like to talk about dream matches. To me, you against Matt was something that was teased, and I'm assuming at some point you guys will get back to it. I also think down the line, when Davey Richards is healthy again, you guys can eventually go back to one day down the line, Matt and Jeff Hardy finally against the Wolves. But who's out there, like, within the TNA roster that you can't wait to get in the ring with? Because especially now that the creative has kind of, I feel, has really righted itself, and it's the most underrated TV show in wrestling week to week. Who are some of the guys that you really want to get in the ring with and really create something with, that either you've worked with but maybe haven't had a chance to have a big moment with, or you haven't had a chance to wrestle with, that when you guys click in the ring, you'll be able to do something special?
Number one is definitely EC3. Willow had a few run-ins with EC3, but Jeff Hardy, EC3 is huge, I think, and naturally, I think, being that we teased Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy, we've got to get back to that. And down the road, like a long way down the road, for me to heal myself completely after breaking my leg, it would be nice to get back together with Matt and win the titles again, so we could actually defend them if Matt ever gets his act together and gets off this arrogant trip. And one day I see that happening for sure. But EC3 is number one probably. And I mean, there's so many young guys that come in there, like the guys from the Grado. I love him. Love watching him. Or the other kid from the I forget his name. Mandrews.
Oh, Mandrews.
Yeah, he'd be great to work with. And yeah, just I think ultimately, like the biggest match would be EC3 versus Jeff Hardy. I think that's I can smell it, in the future. I think that's going to be a big one. But and Eric Young, I've never really worked with him one-on-one. I think we were in like a battle royal together at some time. But so this is going to be a new one for me and one to mark off.
What's interesting, especially coming out of this past week's episode of Impact, what about Bobby Lashley?
Oh, Bobby Lashley's great. We had a phenomenal match, I thought, in New York, a couple of years ago or something. It was when I missed the Swanton on the stairs. And, I love that match. And definitely would like to work with him more, especially now that he's evidently a bad guy again. So I can see that happening for sure.
Now, we're rapidly running out of our allotted time here. So before we go any further, I want to thank you very much for sitting down with us for a little bit. If anybody wants to follow Jeff on Twitter, you can at Jeff Hardy Brand. And, of course, you can follow all the details on what's going to happen at Impact Wrestling at ImpactWrestling.com. Impact Wrestling will return this Tuesday on the Fight Network in Canada and on Pop TV in the United States with the latest live episode of Impact Wrestling, which will also feature EC3 getting a rematch against the current TNA World Heavyweight Champion Matt Hardy. For those of you in the UK, you've got to wait to next Sunday on Challenge TV to see it. And if you're somewhere else, I'm sorry, I don't have that information memorized. Check out ImpactWrestling.com. They'll have all the details. Jeff, one last question for you, and then we'll let you go. And again, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us. You've talked about how you've never been satisfied in the ring. So I got to ask, what is your favorite Jeff Hardy moment within TNA? And then we'll say your favorite Jeff Hardy moment over the course of your career, because you've had a lot of big moments, obviously. So I'm curious for yourself, what are the two that are like that you kind of think of and you smile about when you look back on
them? In TNA, it's probably the huge swanton I did on Abyss back in, I forget what year it was, but it was like, I think it was like 31 feet or something, because I remember when we measured the one against Randy Orton, it was like 32, so that was the highest. But that was one for sure, and then the one on Randy Orton was a huge one for me. And the spear at WrestleMania from Edge was a big one. But one of my most favorite moments of all time is, after the Jeff Hardy Undertaker match, ladder match for the world title, like Raw went off the air, and it's just a picture of me, like, moving my hands, and I'll just never forget that. That always makes me smile, because, like, I went off the air in the main event, and that was such a good story, the underdog versus the main guy. And so that's by far my favorite, probably just that look on my face and the way I sold my hand as Raw was going off.
Awesome. Well, I thank you again, sir, and there'll be many, many more memories and moments from Jeff Hardy in the weeks to come and the months to come on Impact Wrestling, and it all starts this Tuesday. Jeff Hardy against Eric Young, Pop TV, 9 p.m. Eastern, Fight Network in Canada, and a few days later on Challenge TV in the UK. I want to thank all of you for your support of PWInsider.com. And Jeff, again, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you down the road in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you.